Great. Well, I think we'll get going, and if other folks join us as we go, um, they will just catch up with us. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Jess Schwab. I'm with Arts Alliance Illinois. Just going to give a couple technical notes before we get going on the webinar. We do have live ASL interpretation today. Our incredible interpreter, Anne, should be pinned to your screen, but if she is not already, go ahead and click the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of her video, and you can pin her to your screen so you can make sure to see that throughout. Um, I am excited to be here today. As I said, my name is Jess. I'm going to be presenting this webinar along with my colleagues, Megan Lewis and Jonna Schultz. We know that many of you are here today because you already know about the Cook County Arts Nonprofit Relief Grant Program, but if you don't, you're in the right place. This program is currently underway. There is 1 week left to apply, and the program is accepting applications from eligible nonprofits located in and providing programming specifically to suburban Cook County. So we'll talk a little bit today in this webinar about eligibility requirements, documents you need to actually submit for your application, and the timing of the grant awards. And then we'll have some time at the end to have an open question period. But please, throughout the webinar, use that Q&A feature to submit any specific questions you have during. And again, we'll have some time at the end to go over those specific questions. But before we get into it, we do just want to briefly go over our role as Arts Alliance Illinois in this program. So as many of you know, Arts Alliance Illinois is a statewide nonprofit organization. Our mission is to build the creative sector's power through advocacy, policy change, connection to resources, all with the goal of improving the quality of life in communities statewide. Our members are artists, arts educators, arts advocates, nonprofit arts and cultural organizations, and for-profit creative arts businesses. We have an incredible team here at Arts Alliance focused on connecting creatives with public funding, which includes Casey Smith, our Director of Programs and Special Projects, Megan Lewis, Jonna Schultz, and myself, the Public Funding Navigators, and some incredible partners as well externally, Chris Johnson with Lawyers for the Creative Arts, and Jillian Gora with BDO, which is a nonprofit grant maker advisory services. We have a help desk where we can help folks successfully apply for public grants. You can submit specific questions about individual funding opportunities like this Cook County grant, or come to us with more general questions about resources to help grow your creative business or nonprofit. So we're excited to be supporting applicants for this program. We are not the grant administrator for the Cook County Nonprofit Relief Grant, and we'll drop a link in the chat as well, so you can access that help desk for any questions after this webinar as well. Now I'm going to pass it off to Megan, who's going to give us a little overview of this Cook County Nonprofit Relief Grant Program.
Thanks, Jess. So the intent of this grant program is to provide up to $1.5 million in unrestricted relief grants to nonprofit arts and culture organizations that serve suburban Cook County. And the nonprofit relief grant program involves 3 organizations. So first is Cook County Arts. Their Bureau of Economic Development is piloting this grant program as part of their American Rescue Plan funding that they have. Next is Allies for Community Business, or A4CB, as we refer to them. They are the third party that's managing the grant applications, and A4CB supports small businesses and entrepreneurs throughout Chicagoland to grow and thrive. And of course, Arts Alliance Illinois is a partner to Cook County. We're providing specific support to the creative sector through our help desk and through our weekly meetings with the county. So for this program, the grant amounts that are available are either $5,000 or $10,000. And the amount of money that you're awarded depends upon your fiscal year 2019 total expenses. So if your total expenses were at least $20,000 and no more than $100,000, then you may qualify for a $5,000 grant. And if your total expenses were more than $100,000, then you may qualify for a $10,000 grant. And if your organization was started between January 1, 2019 and March 11, 2020, A4CB will look at your total expenses on your first 990 filing. And regarding the use of the funds, this is an unrestricted grant. What this means is that the use is not limited to one program or project. However, you must use the grant money in a way that advances your organization's mission. And as we've mentioned, these are grant funds and they do not need to be repaid, and there are no reporting requirements for this program. Now I'm going to pass it on over to Jana, who's going to review the eligibility criteria.
Thanks, Megan. So when it comes to eligibility, Cook County has 5 criteria that must be met. First, you have to be in an active status on the Illinois State Secretary of State's website. We've included a link to that page at the end of this slide deck. Next, you have to have been in operation before March the 12th, 2020, and have maintained operation throughout the time of your application. Third, your primary address should be in suburban Cook County. Fourth, your operating budget in FY 2019 must have been at least $20,000. And finally, your primary mission must be able to provide arts and culture activities or services for the public in suburban Cook County. And please note, if you receive the PPP, SVOG, or B2B grants, you are still eligible for this opportunity. So the Cook County Arts Nonprofit Relief Grant opportunity is focused on suburban communities, since many of these artists and organizations have been ineligible for the major funding opportunities available through the city of Chicago. In order to be eligible, your organization must provide arts programming to the communities in suburban Cook County. And so finally, the eligible artistic disciplines. There are many. Your organization may be in any of these disciplines: creative placemaking, cultural heritage and history, dance, design, fashion design, film, folk and traditional arts and crafts, humanities, literary arts, multiple disciplinary arts, music, media, performance arts, theater, and visual arts. And now I'm going to hand it back to Megan, who will go over the required documentation and tips for a smooth application process.
Thanks, Jana. So for the application itself, there are only a few pieces of information that are required for everyone. First is your federal employer identification number, or your EIN. Next, you'll need a copy of the front and back of a government-issued photo ID of the officer or trustee that is listed on your 990 or on your AG 990 IL. Third is your organization's tax return for fiscal year 2019. And if you started between January 1, 2019 and March 11, 2020, you can use your first 990 filing. And if you file the 990N or the e-postcard, what you'll provide is your AG 990 annual report. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the tax returns later in the webinar. The final item that you need is a bank statement from a current account, and this needs to be for the account where the funds would be deposited if you were awarded a grant. So this is just to get your routing and account numbers. Optional information you may provide, but you're not required to, includes a work sample if it's not clear from your other information that you are an organization with arts and culture programming. So starting the application is very easy. You just go to Cook County's program website, www.cookcountyarts.org, which is on the slide that you see, and the link to the application is in the upper right-hand corner of the page. When you click on that, you'll then see this page, which shows the list of required documents on the left-hand side. and the application is on the right-hand side. And if you require the application in Spanish, you can get the Spanish language version by clicking the link at the bottom of the instructions on the left side. So to be able to make the process go as smoothly as possible, we have a few tips. First, before you start your application, have all of your documents and information readily available. Because the platform for the application cannot save your information, once you start the application process, you may time out if you navigate away from the page for too long. If this happens, we recommend that you open a new browser window and fill out the application again. Also, have the contact information ready for both the person filling out the application and the backup person. This is the one who should be reached if there are any questions and the main person is not available. And we strongly encourage you to select the box next to "Send me a copy of my responses" at the bottom of the application. This will prompt you to enter an email address and ensure you have a copy of your application sent to you. So for this grant, all applicants who meet eligibility requirements and apply within the application window will be considered for a grant. So the Arts Alliance Help Desk has already received some questions about this grant. So I'm going to hand it back to Jess to walk us through what we've been hearing.
Great. Thank you, Megan. And thank you, everyone. I see you're using the Q&A feature so far. Again, we will have a section to go over those. But again, if one of your questions is not captured in our kind of common question section we're about to get into, please do put it in that Q&A. So one of the things that's coming up a lot is folks are asking where they can find their fiscal year 2019 total expenses. Megan, can you answer this one?
Sure. So for this, it really depends on which tax return that you're filing. So if you file a 990 tax return, which will be up on the screen, you'll see that your total expenses will be found on line 18 of that form. And I'm going to hold to make sure everyone gets a chance to see that where that is. Okay. Great. So then if you file the 990 EZ, the total expenses are going to be on line 17 for that version of the 990. And then if you're a nonprofit that files the form 990N or the e-postcard, you're going to find your total expenses on line O of the AG 990 annual report, which all nonprofits in Illinois are required to file. And you should upload this document in place of a 990 in the grant application. And remember that your total expenses must be at least $20,000 to qualify for this grant. So when it comes to tax filing for nonprofits, the fiscal year and the tax year are often not the same. So for this program, you're going to need to provide your tax document for your fiscal year 2019. And for most organizations, that will be the tax document that says 2018 in the upper right-hand corner. If your fiscal year is the same as the calendar year, then your tax doc will have 2019 in the upper right-hand corner. And we've got some examples up on the screen of the different versions of the 990s that might be out there. So what you need to do to know which one is the correct one to upload is to look at the tax year range on your 990, which is noted by the arrows. And you need to provide the document that ends in 2019. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Megan. And again, if you have specific questions about these kinds of tax forms, put them in the Q&A section, and we'll also reshare the link to our help desk so you can get some one-on-one support with that as well. Another question we're hearing a lot is about the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. So as we know, a lot of organizations paused programming for a period of time in 2020, some paused in 2021. Jonna, can you talk a little bit about how it works if an organization had to pause for a little bit?
Sure. If your organization did have to pause, you are still eligible for this grant as long as you maintained your 501c3 status and are currently in operation.
Great. Thanks, Shauna. Another question that's been coming up is about eligibility based on business address and population served. So as we know, there are many organizations that are in Cook County, but provide programming outside of suburban Cook County. So we really want to clarify sort of the primary audience for this grant. Jonna, can you talk about this piece?
Yep. So, in order to be eligible for this Cook County Arts Relief Grant, your work, your organization needs to benefit the public in the suburban Cook County. So while your programming may be accessible to communities outside of suburban Cook County, the primary audience for your organization and your public programming must be the residents of suburban Cook County.
Great. Thank you, Jonna. Another part of this grant application is the requirement for a government issued ID. So Megan, can you just go over what are considered government issued IDs?
Sure. So the Cook County Arts Nonprofit Relief Grant accepts all of what we would consider to be the common forms of government ID, like a driver's license, passport, state ID, and permanent resident card. But also included in this list is the Real ID, Chicago City Key ID, Consular ID, Military ID, Green Card, Certificate of Naturalization, Certificate of U.S. Citizenship, and Native American Tribal Photo ID. And also, I wanted to note that your government issued ID can be expired, so you can still use that. And remember that you're going to need to upload a picture of both the front and the back of the ID that you are using.
Great. Thank you, Megan. A couple more common questions. And again, if your question is not covered here, make sure to use that Q&A feature. We'll have a couple minutes to pause and go over those in a moment. You mentioned earlier that grant applications cannot be saved. So what happens if someone makes a mistake and they've already submitted their application, they realize something had an error on it or they missed a document? Can a mistake be fixed?
Yes, the quick answer is yes. A mistake on a submitted application can be fixed. So look at the copy of the application that you submitted and make a note of what it is that you need to fix. And then you'll have to go back into the application portal, open a new application, and then work through the process of applying again with the accurate information. And to give you some assurance, the grant administrator, A4CB, will review only the most recent application for your organization. The first application that had the mistake in it will now be considered void. And remember to tick that box next to send me a copy of my responses at the bottom of the application, just above the blue submit button. A4CB will email you a copy so you can review it to ensure that your mistake is corrected, and then you can then save your application for your records.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. Just a reminder again, I see some questions in the Q&A. If any other questions come to mind, please put those in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Now we're going to go over the application review and approval process, just so you all can hear a little bit about what happens when the applications are received, how the grant awards are given out. And again, just a reminder that this deadline is a week from today, so Thursday, February 29th. I will pass it back to Megan.
Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so as just mentioned, Allies for Community Business will be accepting applications up until the window closes on February 29th at midnight. They will then review all the applications to ensure that the applicants have met the eligibility requirements. And just be assured there won't be any sort of qualitative judgment made on the artistic merit of any applicant's public programs. So then after the window closes, all the applications will be assigned a random lottery number, and then they will be reviewed in lottery order. In the case that the total pool of eligible applicants exceeds the available funding, any organizations that are located in HUD's qualified census tracts and with total expenses under $2 million will be reviewed first. Awardees will be asked to electronically sign a W-9 tax form and securely log into their business bank account as they normally would on their bank's website. And once these two steps have been completed, then A4CB will initiate a funds transfer for the grant. So you should then expect to receive the funds in your account in 1 to 2 business days. So for more help with your application, we recommend that you check out the Cook County Relief Grant FAQs on their site. We've also included a link to the Secretary of State's page where you can see the status of your organization. And you can always reach out to us through the help desk. You can submit a ticket to us 24/7, but you should expect responses from us during normal business hours. And once again, bears to be good to be repeated that applications will be closing on February 29th at midnight. And the grant awards will be made in mid-2024. So I'll toss it back to Jess for any questions that have come in.
Great. Thanks so much, Megan. So yeah, we've set aside some time to take some questions. I do see a couple in the Q&A. Let's go to this first one about acceptable tax documents. So someone's asked, what about 990 postcards? Are those acceptable?
Yeah, the 990 postcard can't be accepted because it doesn't contain any revenue or expense information. So what we're looking for here is a tax document that shows your revenues and expenses for fiscal year 2019. So for organizations that file the postcard, they need to provide that AG 990 Illinois annual report, which does include that information.
Great. And just want to encourage folks to follow up with us at the help desk, which is support.artsalliance.com. If you want to talk through exactly how to find additional documents or you're confused about where to find specific information on your tax document itself. I see someone's asked as well about the notification process. Will we be notified if we're selected?
That is a great question. We know that Allies for Community Business is going to be managing the notification process. So they will be reaching out to you so that they can initiate that transfer of funds. So you will be receiving some sort of a notice from A4CB. And I actually just thought of something regarding the previous question about the e-postcard. If you are not able to locate that annual report, you could also provide a profit and loss statement for 2019 and provide 3 bank statements to back up that information in lieu of providing your tax documents, and that can be considered as the proof of your expenses.
That's a good point, Megan. I was going to jump in with that. And I would really encourage everyone who has questions around that tax document to reach out to the help desk. So we can certainly help support those kinds of questions.
Great. Great. This is similar to, let's keep on the theme of award notifications. So someone else has asked, someone's asking, Will there be a notification if someone does get an award? Will applicants who do not receive an award get a notification?
I would say that yes, you will be awarded. You will be informed one way or the other. That's probably part of the work that A4CB does, is to communicate well with their grantees and with their applicants. So I would anticipate that you would receive email information or email updates from them, especially after the applications close.
Great. And will one of you just chime in as well? I see another person's asked for a little more information about the timeline mid-2024. Anything else we can share about sort of when people can expect to hear?
Yeah, our understanding is that the grant awards should be coming around in June of 2024. We don't have a specific date, but that's approximately when we think that'll be happening.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I see someone's asking for the link to the help desk. Go ahead and check the chat. We just had our colleague Bindu share that. And then just a reminder that it's support.artsalliance.org for anyone else. I see someone has asked about annual expenses. So can someone just review this total expenses are slightly below the 20,000, how that would impact someone's eligibility for this grant program?
Yeah, and thanks for that, because we have gotten other folks coming to the help desk whose amounts are slightly underneath that lower level threshold. And what we're recommending is that you certainly go ahead and apply. That's not to be questioned. Go ahead and submit your application. But if you feel that you need to provide more information about your expenses and revenues, you can upload your 990 for fiscal year 2019 and for 2020. And that will help it be understood what your actual expenses are.
Great. I see one more question in the chat. Someone's asked about who the award notification will go to if the person applying will no longer be at the organization by June.
I'm so glad you asked this question. This is, pretty smart. So when you are applying for this, please use an email address that will be accessible to whoever is leading the organization later this year. You'll want something that maybe multiple people are checking, just so you make sure that someone is able to go back and access this, and so that the grant administrator is able to reach out and connect with the proper people. You'll also notice when you're going through the grant application, there's the main person applying, and then there's a secondary contact. So you'll definitely want to make sure that that secondary contact will be with the organization, or anticipates being with the organization moving forward. So then A4CB will have more than one contact point. Great question, though.
Well, thank you everyone for these really good questions. Just want to remind everyone one more time that we can answer any follow-up or individual one-on-one more specific questions at that help desk link, support.artsalliance.org. This is a really exciting opportunity for suburban arts and culture nonprofits in Cook County, and we're really eager to help as many eligible organizations apply. So no question is too small. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will also share a recording of our webinar if there's anything you didn't write down or missed and want to watch again. But good luck with your applications, everyone. Please come visit us at the help desk. And thanks so much for being here.